All right, guys, this is part 3 of a 3-part series. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, and definitely drop the comments. I need to hear your feedback. And definitely go to these 3 channels, show your support and love, and let them know I sent you. The Real News Network, James Madison, and Big Dog James Freeman. Now, without further ado, let's continue this video and learn our rights.
Talk about his fight and the lawsuit, which is critical in the state of government watching in general. I am joined by Mr. Freeman himself. James, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on again. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Oh, it's so great to see you. First off, I have to ask you, are you still asking cops the same stupid questions they ask us?
It doesn't work as well as it used to because I've gained such a reputation for it that they already know that it's coming. I approached a Farmington, New Mexico police officer just yesterday and was going to try and get that going. And right off the bat, he goes, "Oh, Mr. Freeman, your reputation precedes you." So it doesn't work as well when they know it's coming.
That's great. I mean, I'm disappointed, but I'm glad that your reputation precedes you.
Yeah.
I think that's just terrific. And I am also I was so glad to see that the mainstream media actually acknowledged A, that a cop watcher existed, and B, that they can actually do something useful for the community. How is that process interacting with the MSM, with your local news?
I wasn't entirely shocked myself because what I'm dealing with this court, the mainstream media is also dealing with. We are all constantly trying to get the truth of all kinds of stories out there. And government, it's not just us cop watchers and independent journalists. They try to stop everyone from doing it. And so I think that the mainstream media realized if they're going to do this to me, they're going to do it to them as well. And so a precedent needs to be set here that this is unacceptable, and that it's not going to be allowed.
So is this a federal lawsuit you filed, and is this a municipal, like is it a circuit court, or what kind of court is it? A state court that this is occurring in? Just to understand some of the details.
This is a district court, and New Mexico, it's kind of a rural area, so it actually covers, I think, 4 or 5 different counties.
Okay.
And we did file the lawsuit in federal court simply because we didn't believe we were going to be able to get justice anywhere in any of the New Mexico courts because we believe that they're getting their orders from the Supreme Court of New Mexico.
So is this like a First Amendment case, or what's your basic argument? And I'm fascinated by this because we have the same problem here in Maryland. So is this a First Amendment case, or what are you arguing in your suit?
Yeah, so what they did is after I ran that story, they made it an administrative order saying that I can't come to the courthouse
at all,
and unless I have official business. But they don't recognize reporting on their corruption as official business. They don't recognize that. And so essentially what it did is there was no due process either. There was no hearing. There was no trial. It was just, boom, your First Amendment rights are gone, and there's no due process. I continued to go to the court, and I continued to report anyways for about 3 months. And then finally the judge said, all right, you violated the order. We were already getting ready to file a lawsuit simply because of the order itself. And then one day the judge said, you know what, you violated the order by continuing to report on us. We're going to have you come in for a hearing, and we're going to try to throw you in jail for contempt of court for disobeying the order, violating your First Amendment.
Well, now, James, this is very disturbing because there's nothing more public than court, nothing where there's more laws about, what should be public, a court hearing, evidence. What basis did they use to order you out of a courtroom? Like, what was their base? I don't even see where they'd have a legal basis.
So no, they definitely don't have a legal basis. But the state of New Mexico, the court system, there's a reason they don't want me in there, and it's because they don't use the law in their courts. They use whatever they feel like at the moment. What they put on the actual administrative order was that after I ran the story, there were people who viewed the story and called the courthouse to redress grievances and to let them know, hey, we're upset with what you guys are doing here, and we want you to get your act together. And so they specifically articulated in the order, you cannot come to the courthouse due to the fact that other people have contacted us. and they claim that it was on my behalf. I mean,
You can't
obviously,
control
I
that.
didn't. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so they didn't even ban me for anything that I did. They banned me for things that other people did when they saw the corruption that I published.
I mean, this is so like ridiculously First Amendment fraught wrong that it's hard for me to understand. It just sounds like they're just like you said, making up the law as they go along. So then they have a hearing. You said what happened in the hearing? Was there actually really a hearing? I mean, was there evidence presented and arguments made, or what actually happened?
So once they decided to schedule that hearing, my lawyers fast tracked it and said, "That's it. We're filing the lawsuit today." There were a few other things we were waiting on, some open records requests because once you file the lawsuit, they're gonna clam up on everything and not give us anything. And so we were trying to wait until we had some more evidence of the things that they were doing. Once they said, "Hey, let's bring him into court and throw him in jail," we immediately filed the lawsuit that day, and the judge had to recuse herself. We asked for injunctive relief from the federal court, which they haven't even given us yet, and so they've continued to retaliate against me since we filed the suit.
How are they retaliating?
So yeah, there was no hearing.
How are they retaliating? What are they doing?
So there's one of the stories that I was covering in that courthouse. There was another hearing just today for him, and he had asked me to be there to record documents so that I could report on the final leg of his story with that court system. The chief judge, Mercedes Murphy, refused to allow me into the courtroom, and it was just a remote hearing through Google, whatever, the Zoom or whatever. But she refused to let me into the hearing. And
wow, it's interesting because you have sat in a courtroom. I've sat a lot in a courtroom, and we know both Eric Brandt had who's another cop watcher, called a lot of attention to the court process. Just talk about like why you see a lot of things go on in a courtroom that just don't really make any sense and don't seem to be following the law. Can you talk about why it's so important to have eyes in the courtroom like yourself? Like why it would be important for people to see stuff or know what's going on?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in the very first story that I broke on the 7th Judicial District Court in Torrance County, they had said, well, you know what, this is a court of record. We record everything ourselves. Now, previously, a lot of courts weren't even recording audio or video. They just had somebody typing what they could catch. Right. And there were a lot of problems with that. If you go in and actually record, you'll find that the record does not match what you record.
Absolutely.
And I showed that in the very first story that I ran on them, that even though they were recording, they went off the record, and then the hearing officer did and said some things that he later denied he did and said. And the only reason we had evidence that the hearing officer, Gordon Bennett, lied was because there happened to be a deputy in the courtroom with his body camera on during that time that he was supposedly off the record. These hearings are public. Go ahead.
No, but I was going to say, like, I mean, one of the things I've learned as a reporter being in the courtroom is like, wow, you think there's this idea of the law and everyone's following the law, but you realize it's really, really up to the, whatever the whims of a judge, and can be very capricious. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because sometimes when I leave a courtroom, I'm like, I'm pretty scared because if I ever ended up there, I don't think I get a fair shake.
Yeah, I'm no lawyer. I'm no attorney. I work with attorneys, and so they kind of show me the process and have specifically shown me while I'm watching court hearings and on hearings that I've reviewed or recorded, been able to go back and watch them with lawyers, and they say, man, this judge isn't even following the legal process. And even I've got one of my lawyers that's representing me that has a recording of him telling a judge, hey, you're not following the legal process, and he wants to read it into the record, and the judge is yelling at him, no, you can't read the legal process into the record, because she just blatantly doesn't want to obey the law, and so she doesn't want it on the record that she's aware of what the law is.
Do you think, I mean, I know we both know Eric Brandt, he's now in prison for threatening judges, and it's a very interesting case. But allegedly, exactly.
Correct.
Thank you for that. And but he would always say the judiciary does not get enough attention. Is that something you agree with?
Absolutely. And they've been. I mean, you talk about qualified immunity for police officers, judges, prosecutors have. It seems to be absolute immunity. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to be absolute immunity, untouchable.
Yeah. No, and it's a little scary because really, when you think about it, traditionally prosecutors or at least judges are supposed to be a check on police and other types of law enforcement. But often, I mean, what I've seen is that judges pretty much are in cahoots with police in so many cases. And I mean, when we've had many corrupt cops who have run through courts forever, lying, just blatantly lying, and cops and judges doing nothing about it. And I guess that's what you're trying to, sort of watch out for in this court system, right?
Yeah, and I've been trying to show people too. Look, this whole system of three branches of government and checks and balances that exists for a purpose. These branches aren't supposed to be working together. They are supposed to be butting heads. They are supposed to be challenging each other.
Agree.
They are supposed to be refusing to cooperate with each other. And I'll tell you what, with this case, over the last 3 months, I have seen something that I never thought that I would see in my lifetime. The local law enforcement in this area have refused to enforce the judge's orders.
Wow.
I have been ordered to be arrested multiple times by hearing officers and judges, and the Torrance County deputies and the local police department next door. They have tried to call in every police department possible because none of them will touch me.
Wow.
And it's because they know that what the judges are doing is wrong.
So wait, a judge has literally issued what, a bench warrant for you, or just an order to arrest you for no reason?
Yeah, just an order to arrest. Said, hey, you know what? He came to the courthouse. He wasn't supposed to come to the courthouse to report on us. It was a hearing officer just a couple of weeks ago ordered me to be arrested, and I haven't even uploaded the footage yet. And the two deputies are saying, well, he's not doing anything illegal. We can't arrest him.
Yeah, I mean, this is an administrative order. This isn't, you didn't break a law. Okay, so
Right.
How on earth can this judge justify an arrest? I mean, I think the deputies are behaving correctly because they're following the law.
Right.
You're exercising your First Amendment rights, and you violate administrative order. It should be an administrative sanction, not an arrest. What's wrong with this judge?
Well, besides that, the administrative order shouldn't exist in the first place either.
Well,
it violated due process and
right. But I don't understand how you jump to arrest from an administrative order. I don't get it.
I really don't know. You'd have to ask the judges and the hearing officers why they think that. Actually, one of the hearing officers, when he ran out of excuses and realized, we really can't get him on violating this order because even the order says he's got to have a police escort, and I had two deputies with me the whole time. He said, well, I'll have you arrested for disorderly conduct then. I said, where did you get your law degree? Do you even know what disorderly conduct is?
It's like this is a go-to, pickup line for cops. I mean, like that. This is just really, really, really concerning. And so, have the deputies at all, or anyone said, "Hey, James, we know this is illegal, and we're not going to enforce it," or is it just kind of implicit? Do they actually tell you, or do they say what their thinking is here?
I don't necessarily want to say, like we were talking about with James Madison earlier. And, that's what's been really, really, really tough about this case for me. People have asked me before, hey, why don't you talk about good cops on your channel? I said, because I don't want them, I don't want to put a target on their back. That's why.
Right.
And it's been tough because some of these deputies have outwardly, you can request the body cam footage. They have outwardly made it perfectly clear. No, they are not going to follow an unlawful order. And a lot of them, it's been really tough because the sheriff at the top, David Frazee, is a nut job who would love to see me arrested, but he won't do it himself, and his own deputies won't do it for him. And so, I mean, some of these deputies have really, really stuck their necks out, and I've been so conflicted with this incident. Going, all right, do I really publish this and praise them, or
Well, I think you're wise to let them be, in the sense that I think, as we've seen it, like you said, we just talked to James Madison. There's a retaliatory structure there, and if this comes out, they'll probably be in trouble. And I think probably just be grateful. But that is a really interesting dilemma for you, because you're technically a person who holds cops accountable. And, in this particular case, the cops are actually, or deputy sheriffs are doing the right thing. But this is just an amazing case. I mean, really, to me, this is like a premier First Amendment case that the media should be covering all over the country, that you're doing this, you're having this battle, because they could do this to any reporter. I mean, and
Right.
and one of the things, there's another thing I have to talk about court covering as a reporter: the arrogance of the people in a courtroom. Like, you have your phone open because you need to get a story out, and they'll confiscate your phone, they'll kick you out of the courtroom, if they think you're, I don't know what. I've encountered so many jerk judges as a reporter who have harassed me and just for like, sit in the back of the courtroom, move over here, don't do that. Or like I go to try to talk to like some, maybe, a suspect's family and say, can I talk to them? Like, why are you talking in my courtroom? And it's not that, I don't understand you have to have an orderly courtroom, but the arrogance of the people in the court system is insane. They think that we're there because they're letting us be there, not because the Constitution has the First Amendment, and not because we're doing a job that is protected, but they make it seem like, oh, we'll let you come in here, you can, but you don't really have any right to be here. And you're a perfect example of that case where they're saying, just because of our whims, we can get rid of you. We don't like what you say, we can get rid of you. That's I mean, there's a lot of arrogance in these courthouses, right?
Yeah. And I think that's why they are going to fight this really hard. We believe that the Attorney General of the state of New Mexico is about to weigh in on this in a very heavy way, because they've been completely out of control for a very long time and gotten away with everything, and it's wrong. And they know it, and they know that if we set precedent in this case, it's going to change a lot of things across this country.
I hope so.
It's just going to be the beginning, and I think they know that.
So you know what? We have a bunch of questions, both for you and James Madison. But I have one or two questions for you first that I want to hit you with, if that's okay, James Freeman. Is that all right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay. So the first question is, has flipping the script on a cop ever gone wrong?
Gone wrong. I don't think I've ever gotten arrested doing it. I've done it a lot of times, and I don't always get the results that I want. The result that I want is for the roles to literally be flipped to where I'm the dominant one who's a total jerk, and the cop becomes the submissive one who's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? You start stumbling over his words like we do often when we're confronted by police and we get nervous. I wouldn't say it necessarily went wrong, though.
Now this question is kind of tough, but I did promise that if someone asks, I would throw the questions up there. How do I find an attorney to file a federal lawsuit in Texas? That can be kind of tough. I know.
You're the Fifth Circuit. You're screwed in Texas.
Well,
no, I got you there. That's going to be Brandon Grable and Grimshaw.
Oh, great.
He represented us on the Leon Valley case. He's representing quite a few other people. Actually, one of the cases that you guys covered, a family who was recording police. I can't remember where it was.
Oh, yes. Zari
Hoagland. Yeah.
Oh, yes. And she really appreciated your help in helping connect her with a useful lawyer.
We have to connect Thomas with this lawyer because the firefighter who was forced out of his job.
That's a great idea.
Not that it's our job, but we should at least connect them and do them that.
Yes, at least.
Well, thank you, James. That's a great recommendation.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I just can't say enough about this case that James. This case is for all the journalists all over the country who have to go into courtrooms and beg forgiveness for reporting on what people are doing, how people are exercising governmental power against them. I really, James, I am so impressed and supportive of whatever we can do to help you. And if you could send us a lawsuit, I would like to write a story about it for the Real News because this could be critical. I mean, I don't know how it works, how the interplay between federal and circuit courts, but it'd be great to set some precedent that they can't just make things up as they go along. I mean, hopefully, hope that's what's going to happen. I hope. I mean, I hope you'll win that.
By the way, we have someone rather insistent in the chat wants to know. Their question is, can I be Freeman's intern? From Matt R in the chat. So,
do you have interns?
Do you have interns? Do you have an internship program? I wasn't aware you did, but I don't want to assume.
I'm a one-man show.
Okay, a one-man band. Okay.
Got it.
Sorry about that, Matt.
I'm paranoid, so everybody's a Fed.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. You've got to be really careful.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to deliver disappointing news, Matt R., but I did ask for you. So you know what? This is so great. You know what? I was just thinking, I have to ask you, just to get your perspective, you saw Thomas's interaction earlier, the firefighter who's put through that field sobriety test. One of the things that really stood out to me is the officers, they take him through all these tests and they're judging him so harshly. One of the things they did was they did a Romberg test where he has to stand there with his arms at his side and his head back and count to 30. And when he believes he counts to 30, he says, done. And so the officer stands there and does a timer. And if you have between 25 seconds and 35 seconds, when you say stop, then it's considered a pass. But the firefighter said stop at 36 seconds. So they considered that a fail of the test. So that field sobriety test was just it was just cruelty. I thought of so many reasons why it would be difficult for someone to pass a field sobriety test effectively. If you had had a long day at work and you were just a little bit shaky, this gentleman literally had a tumor in his ear. As a matter of fact, I made Steven try to do the field sobriety test, and I walked him through it. And I think, honestly, a lot of guys who've been athletic, have tight hamstrings or don't do yoga, won't do well at it. I'm being honest.
Believe it or not.
No, you don't do yoga, as far as I know.
Right.
But I just wanted to know what your advice would be if someone is stopped for, allegedly for, an investigation to see whether or not they have been drinking or driving, what sort of advice you would give, or what would you say to Thomas? Hey, this is what I would have done in your situation.
Are you asking Freeman or
you?
Or
oh, you.
Madison?
You.
Okay.
You. Sorry, you.
Okay.
You, Freeman.
That is a really tough question, because it seems to me, as a non-attorney, that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You don't take the test, they're taking you to jail. I really don't know. I would almost rather the blood draw, though.
Right.
And besides that, though, there's so many other elements to this particular case that are just bizarre.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, the reason why, even though the alcohol test came back completely negative, allegedly there was a backlog, so the drug blood test didn't come back in a timely fashion. He was dismissed simply for having the arrest charges, not because he was convicted, but because he simply had been arrested. And so he lost his job as a driver engineer, a career he'd loved for 30 years. He said the fire department was his family. It was absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking.
And that doesn't happen to police, right? When they get pulled over for DWIs, they're put on paid administrative leave quite often. And, innocent until proven guilty. And really, that is the way it should be, even though I'm not a fan of police. It should be the same across the board, that we're all innocent until proven guilty.
Very well said.
Well, as we reported on that show, there is a thing that New York police officers get called courtesy cards that they give out to their relatives and friends. And we, speaking to what we're talking about, James, you're talking about good cops getting in trouble. We reported on this police officer who got sick of these courtesy cards because he's pulling people over for reckless driving and all sorts of stuff. And they'd give him this card, and he was supposed to let them go, and he wouldn't do it. And so, guess what happens? He suffers retaliation. His career is destroyed. He's sent to Staten Island, has to work the 12 to midnight shift or whatever. So, there are two sets of laws in this sense, and I think, James, you see that probably every day, right? Or I'm not asking you to agree, but that is something.
That's right. Which James?
Oh my God! Whoa!
Yes, I know.
I don't know if we're bringing James Madison back in.
No, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Freeman.
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely two sets of laws, and really, more than anything else, that is what I'm trying to show on my channel through every single video that I do. Every single, it's hey, we've created these rules and laws so that we can have a civilized society, and we all kind of agree. Look, these are the rules we're going to obey. These are the rules we're going to follow, so that we can all get along and be civilized. And you and I do it, and then there's this class of people that we call government that don't, and that are not accountable to it.
And I mean, the only way that we're ever going to be able to, win that battle and have accountability is if people like you can go into a courtroom and make people uncomfortable. They're not supposed to be comfortable around reporters. I mean, we're not trying to make people uncomfortable. We're not like cops, we're not harassing people, but they're not supposed to be comfortable with everything we report. That's not how the First Amendment works. It doesn't mean that we're rude, but it means that we tell the truth, and the truth makes them uncomfortable. And I just really, we want to follow your lawsuit all the way, because I'm just hoping that a federal court, which circuit is that? Is that the 6th or what circuit?
10th.
10th. Oh, 10th. Okay.
Yeah. Same one where we just got the case law out of Colorado from Azaria and
yeah, the one where Eric was filming the traffic stop. That one.
Right. Yep.
Yes. Yep. So the 10th Circuit, you have some hope there. I mean, when we were talking to Thomas, his lawyer was saying the 5th Circuit is really difficult when you're suing cops. So we didn't get into the details of that. But James, we support you as a fellow reporter, and we will cover this story. And we wish you the best of luck with this, because if you win, maybe I can go into courtroom and actually do my job without getting harassed by a deputy sheriff who doesn't like the fact that I have a cell phone.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
As if that's what's really important. But anyway, so I think.
Oh my gosh!
What?
First, I just have to thank every single James
Oh yes,
joined us
you
here
want to
tonight
thank all the
because I
Jameses.
realized we are going a little over
Okay,
on
all
our
right. Well,
time,
let's.
and we
Okay,
have like one or two more things to do. And
okay.
I really wanted to make sure to like highlight people's comments, so I'm down here in the chat trying to throw comments on the screen. But we might need to move forward a little bit
Okay.
because
It's
yeah,
past everyone's bedtime.
it'll.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to make the fourth part. I was trying to fit it in here in 3 parts, but due to my video app, I can only do a half an hour video at a time until I do an upgrade, which costs money. And I actually have a family. I got 4 kids and I got bills. And until I get enough subscribers up to 500,000 or so, I don't know how much to invest in this. I'm not going to take our kids' money out of their mouths and off their feet. So I'm trying my best. Give me the subscribers and I can get longer videos. But we're going to move along to part 4. Make sure you go to their channel, subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel before you leave this session. And make sure to drop your comments. Whatever your thought, opinion, whatever comes to your mind, just type it down, throw it out there. I will respond. Thank you, and I'll see you in part 4.